Namaste and welcome to Detours with me, Anuradha Goyal, where I talk to some very interesting personalities about journeys of all kinds. Namaste and welcome to Detours. Today we have with us Dr. Nagaraj Paturi, who is Director at Indic Academy Inter Gurukula University Center for Indic Knowledge Systems. And I had the good fortune of co-curating India's first Yatra conference with him, which we did last November in BHU Kashi. And there we received a lot of presentations and papers on different aspects of Indic travel traditions. However, one of the topics that we were looking for and we really didn't get much of response was a topic called Doot Kavya. Now, Doot in Sanskrit and in most Indian languages means a messenger, and Kavya is poetry. So that led me to an inference that probably the awareness about this is low. So I requested Dr. Nagaraj Paturi, who's an expert and a scholar in Sanskrit literature, almost an encyclopedia, to tell us, to apprise us of what a Doot Kavya is. So Dr. Paturi, welcome to Detours.
Thank you and Namaste Anuradha ji. Very close to my heart this topic. I am very glad that we are able to conduct this recording about Duta Kavyas. The other word for Duta Kavyas is Sandesha Kavyas. Both the words Sandesha Kavya and Duta Kavya come from the name of the Kavya by Kalidasa called Megha Sandesha or Megha Dutam, Megha Sandesham or Megha Dutam. So the same Kavya has both the names. That is why these two words, Sandesha Kavya and Duta Kavya, have been used in reference to all the Kavyas which were modeled after Kalidasa's Megha Sandesham or Megha Dutam.
So I'll start with the very beginning. Tell us, what is a Doot Kavya and why there is a classification for this kind of poetry in Sanskrit literature.
Yeah, Duta, the word Duta means messenger, and yes, the word Sandesha means message. So right, the word, the prototype for all these Sandesha Kavyas starts from Kalidasa's book. And in this book, you have a message sending person and the messenger and the message receiving person. And mainly the beauty of these kavyas and why they have become relevant for a yatra discussion is that though the title of the kavya talks about some messenger, message receiver, message and everything, majority of the poem is a description of the route that is supposed to be taken by the messenger. So the message sender gives a very detailed, long description of various places through which the messenger travels. And that description is what makes it a tourist book. It's a tour book. And in the case of Megha Sandesham, it is a yaksha who is sending the message. And this yaksha's lover, who is a yakshini, is in the Himalayas. And the yaksha is somewhere in the south. And the yaksha, because of a curse, because of a shapa, is in the form of a stone, which is going to be for 1 year. And this yaksha is in viraha, is in the pangs of romantic separation.
Longing.
His lover. So he is communicating that pangs of separation, pain of separation from the lover. But the interesting aspect of this kavya is that the description of pangs of separation, pain of separation is shorter compared to the detailed description of the route to be taken by the cloud. Megha is Megha Sandesha and Megha Sandesha. Megha means cloud. Yaksha is talking to the cloud and he is asking the cloud to take a particular route and describes the detailed route and says, while taking this route, you go to my beloved and communicate the pain of separation that I am experiencing. And all the later Duta Kavyas, all the later Sandesha Kavyas that are modeled after Megha Sandesham also follow the same method. The message part is shorter than the description of the route.
So it is essentially a message and a messenger is traveling from place A to place B, and we also as a reader travel with the messenger and we see exactly what the messenger would be seeing in that route.
Yeah. So and these such travels, aerial travels of characters from one place to the other, also happen in Ramayana. In Ramayana, Hanuman travels from the southern border of India to Lanka, where Ravana has kept Sita hiding, Sita in hiding, and that is also a travel, aerial travel only. And Valmiki gives a detailed description of the route that is taken by Hanuman, but that is not across human dwelling places. Mostly it is across the ocean.
Yeah, in fact, it reminds me that in Ramcharitmanas, Tulsidas ji has a reverse route. You know, when the whole after the war, when Sri Ram is coming back with Janaki, they take an aerial route and then he shows her all the places that he has traveled to reach Lanka.
Yes, yes. So people say there is a way of looking at the Megha Sandesham of Kalidasa, that Kalidasa is inspired by Valmiki in his description of Hanumat Sandesha, because that also has got to do with love. Rama is a lover, Sita is the beloved, and she is staying at a distance, and Rama is sending the message of pain that he is suffering from the separation of the lover and the beloved. So people say that Kalidasa is inspired by Ramayana in this.
What about Mahabharata? Does Mahabharata also has an episode like this?
Yes, yes. In Mahabharata, there is one episode called Nalacharitam. The Adi Parva of Mahabharata is all about various famous kings who did great achievements in their life. One of such kings of Pandavas dynasty was Nala. And Nala and his beloved Damayanti, they are also separated, and the message of separation between Nala and Damayanti is sent by a swan, Hansa. In Sanskrit, swan is called Hansa. It's also a bird, and that bird also flies. So there is this aerial travel and all that. But the travel itself is not described in such a great detail in Mahabharata, just as it is done in Ramayana. But the idea of a love message, romantic message, particularly of separation, being carried by a bird, and the travel being an aerial travel, all these features match with this Nala Sandesham also, Nala Charitam of Mahabharata, where there is a Hansa Sandesha. What is interesting is that Hansa has become a messenger for many later kavyas. There are at least 10 kavyas with the name either Hansa Sandesha or Hansa Duta, written from time to time in the model of Megha Sandesha. So this Hansa, swan being the messenger, which is followed by the later poets in Sanskrit literature, so much is inspired by Mahabharata is very interesting. Mahabharata's Nalacharitam is very interesting. And this Mahabharata's Nalacharitam is later made into a full-fledged kavya by the name Naishadham by Sri Harsha. Sri Harsha is the poet. So in Sri Harsha's Naishadha Kavya also, this Hansa Sandesha, which is there in Mahabharata, is taken to a great detail. Because it's a Kavya in itself, the seed story, seed narrative that is borrowed from Mahabharata is given a detailed, elaborate description in Sri Harsha's Naishadha.
You know, what is interesting is that you are saying that in all these Doot Kavyas, we have an aerial route where the messenger is taking an aerial route, and he describes, whoever describes it, the poet describes the earth or the route as seen from the air.
Yeah.
You know, now assuming that most of these people may not have actually flown, how do you think they imagined such detailed descriptions? I have only read Meghadutam, and it's amazing the amount of detail that they take, and the route is almost accurate if you go by Google Maps even today.
Yeah, that is a really very interesting aspect. One thing we can say, any rational person would say, is that it is just imagination. We can only say that poets are so imaginative that they can go to any degree of their creativity and imagine an aerial route, though they themselves might have not experienced such an aerial route. And there is another way of looking at it. Probably they had some technology, probably they had some kind of a vehicle which was able to take them in air, and that is the reason they were able to imagine the aerial routes. But definitely,
every time I have, like I was telling you, every time I have taken a hot air balloon ride, I always, I mean, it's a low flying, and you can literally see what is happening downstairs. In fact, once I have even spoken to people on the ground from the hot air balloon. And it's a very simple science. It's not something very difficult to achieve. So I have a feeling that they could fly and fly very low to be able to observe the what is beneath very, very minutely.
yeah, that's something which is really interesting. In Ramayana also, Valmiki describes the Hanuman's travel, and there you think that probably Valmiki knows some rockets and how rockets would have launched and all that. He describes as though everything is happening for an object. Here it is a Hanuman, how it explodes into the air, and for such a person who suddenly explodes into the sky air, how all of a sudden the size of the earth shrinks, and all the objects on the earth which are rotating, how they look to such a person who is in a space travel, and all that is also given. For example, Valmiki says that all the details of the objects are blurring for Hanuman, because he is in a speed travel in the air, speed travel in the space. So we do not know whether Valmiki really himself had an experience of such a travel. That is why he was able to imagine, or he was using the principles of optics, that as a rishi he knew what would happen for a person if he jumps all of a sudden into the air with such a great speed and all that. We do not know, but it happens. So similarly, we can say that these authors of Dutakavyas also probably had their theoretical knowledge of what could happen to the vision, to the optics of a person if he travels in air and he watches these places. But definitely the authors of all these Dutta Kavyas must have had the tourist knowledge, at least, of all these places, how they get connected, what is the route, and how comfortably we can travel. And because the kind of technology, transport technology that we today have was probably not there, they had earth routes to travel to these places. The Dutakavyas gave them the convenience of avoiding such difficult routes, uh, and imagining some routes which would, for example, can easily escape the hilly terrain, or a very deep river that they probably cannot cross without hurdles and all that also, and they usually create their own routes. One interesting kavya that we have is, there is a kavya which is written as a reply from the Yakshini to the Yaksha of Megha Sandesha. And in that reply, the route is completely reversed. And in that reverse route, the author does not exactly follow the exact reversal of the route described by Kalidasa. He takes an altogether different route which is shorter, uh, and makes the Yakshini's messenger, the same cloud only there also, reach very shorter duration.
Yeah. What is also interesting is that a lot of these kavyas use clouds as the messenger, because clouds we know travel. I mean,
Cloud, there are peacocks used as swans, parrots, and quail, cuckoo that is used. Even honeybee, there is a Brahmaraduta kavya. Honeybee is used, and there is a Chandraduta kavya in which moon is used, and there is a Pavanaduta kavya where wind is used as a messenger. So there are all kinds of messengers, but the most frequent one of them is Hansa, swan. With the name of Hansa Sandesha and Hansa Duta, you have a very big number of kavyas.
okay. And somebody on Twitter told me that there is a kavya where even language has been used as a doot. Tamil language has been used as a doot. I'm curious to read that, as and when I can manage to read Tamil.
Yeah.
But that takes me to another question. Now, all of these doot kavyas that you mentioned are in Sanskrit. So, do the other languages, other ancient Indian languages, also have a tradition of doot kavyas?
In fact, in Tamil literature, in Sangam literature, there are shorter poems where there is this romantic message sending by a romantic message sender to the romantic message receiver. There is poetics about this also. The rules of who is the ideal messenger, who can be made a messenger in such kavya and all that. Such poetics are also discussed in Tamil poetics literature. And there is a theorization. Professor George Hart goes to the extent of saying that it is these Tamil Duta Kavyas which are inspiration for the Sanskrit Duta Kavyas also, though that extreme kind of connection is very difficult to make, but it is true that ancient Tamil literature had small messenger poems. Later to Megha Sandesham, and later to many Megha Sandesham modeled Sanskrit Duta Kavyas, in regional Indian literatures at a later time, right from maybe 12th century up to 17th, 18th centuries also, there are regional language Duta Kavyas, particularly in the South Indian literature like Telugu, Kannada and Tamil. We have Duta Kavyas even in Malayalam. Duta Kavyas written particularly around 17th century to 19th century. traditional Duta Kavyas were written. But one of the most interesting things that happened is that there are modern Duta Kavyas that are written also during the modern period, 20th century, 19th century, 20th century, particularly 20th century. The modern Duta Kavyas have reflections of independence movement, national movement, and some of them have an indirect message of Marxism, communism, Harijan movement. One of the Telugu kavyas called Gabilamu, where bat is used as a messenger. A Harijan person, Dalit person is the message sender. He sends the message to Shiva, who is residing on the Kailasa mountain, expressing all the pains of untouchability and discrimination that the person is suffering from, and requests Shiva to solve this problem of untouchability. And there is another one where there is a Marxist message of a revolutionary leader who is imprisoned, is being sent, that is by Puttaparthi Narayanacharyalu. The other one that I was talking was written by one Gurram Joshua. He is a Dalit poet. And this Puttaparthi Narayanacharyalu was a neoclassical poet with some amount of Marxist influence on him. And that poem was written in 20th century. Both these Gabilamu, that is the bat messenger poem, is a little older than the other one, which is also called Megha Sandeshamu, written by Puttaparthi Narayanacharya. So these are modern Duta Kavyas. Up to the modern period, Duta Kavyas have been continuing, and there are some contemporary poets also in 21st century also. There are some Sanskrit poets and regional language poets who are still writing Duta Kavyas in their own way.
Have the subjects evolved? So the ancient ones, we primarily see this longing that comes with the separation of lovers. That is the primary theme of Duta Kavyas. Has it evolved? Has the theme also evolved over time in the medieval period especially?
We cannot completely generalize that all the ancient and medieval Sanskrit poems, messenger poems, were centered around romance, because we have books by Vedanta Deshika of Sri Vaishnavism, Vishishtadvaita Vedanta tradition, which have the Vedanta message embedded in them, and we have books by Rupa Goswami, a Gaudiya Vaishnava, the topmost Gaudiya Vaishnava author. In his books also there is a spiritual message. The message is not romance or love or any such thing. It is spirituality. So there are books with spiritual message embedded in them, and some books are even, for example, allegorical. One of the Hansa Sandesha books written is actually keeping Hansa. Hansa is the breath, so that breath itself is being taken as a messenger, and in a very symbolic way, in a very allegorical way, a secretly mystic message is also embedded in the Duta Kavya. So that such kavyas are also there, but by and large, you're right. By and large, most of the Duta Kavyas were romantic kavyas in the ancient period. During the modern period, mostly they are modeled after the traditional Duta Kavyas, but the structure is the same. Message part is shorter, there is a long description of the route, everything, and this route description in modern poems is well informed by contemporary journalism. For example, about Himalayas, when the Telugu Gabilamu book describes Himalayas, he is informed by the British time journalism. So some of it is, even journalists can fake. So some of such wrong informations also he gets from such journalistic reporting. and he goes by them. He blindly buys such descriptions. But the point is that he is well informed by the modern media. Unlike the ancient poets, their descriptions were based on their own personal experiences, or some of that was informed by the Puranas, more ancient Puranas. But the contemporary poets are informed by journalistic descriptions.
I would assume that ancient poets also had access to, wandering rishis or sages who would give them this information if they have not traveled on their own.
Yeah, so we do not know. We cannot
Yeah,
for sure
I mean, we
say,
can only
but we can at least adventure some kind of a guess about it.
as any instances of this kind of a poetry outside India. Is it very Indian thing, or is it something very global and found in?
It appears to be typically Indian. We do not have any such Bhutakavya type of works outside India.
Okay.
But message sending um, to a lover through a messenger, that basic idea is universal. It is almost universal in poetry.
Yeah.
But messenger poems themselves, with such detailed description of tour and all that, I don't think they are there.
Yeah, so it's more like, people write a lot about road trips. This is more like an air trip, a low flying air trip kind of a description that most of these poems carry.
Yeah, these are low level aerial trip kind of descriptions. That's the interesting part of it from a tourism point of view, from yatra point of view.
Right.
That is the interesting part, that it betrays the love for travel, love for tour among these poets and the generation of Indians of that time. How much love they had for traveling and tour, and how much they enjoyed it as something poetically, exhilarating, and all that. That is revealed by the number of kavyas that we have modeled after Kalidasa's Megha Sandesham.
In fact, in Meghadoot, you feel that the Yaksha is longing for those places that he describes as much as he is longing for Yakshini.
Yeah, it is the places description actually need not have anything to do with the love aspect. Once the travel starts, all the romance aspect just disappears. It is just a description of places and places and places.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So, any idea if in 21st century or late 19th century, if 20th century, if anybody has written it in English or any other language that we are more familiar with these days?
I heard of them. I heard that there are some English professors who wrote messenger poems in English.
Okay.
That are modeled after Megha Sandesham. But personally, I have no access to any of them. I have not seen those poems.
So, Kalidasa's Meghadoot is pretty much available in most Indian languages. At least it's available in Hindi, English, and some other languages. Which are the other 3 or 4 Doot Kavyas that you can recommend and which are available for our listeners?
I don't know. One of them is Hamsa Dootam of Vamana Bhatta. Hamsa Dootam of Vamana Bhatta, I think, is translated into Hindi. It is not translated into English, but it is translated into Hindi. Okay. And there are Hindi translations of most of the Duta Kavyas.
Okay.
Shuka Sandesha, for example, is translated into Hindi. And yeah, the Hindi literature has got a lot of translations from Sanskrit into Hindi, but I am not aware of English translations of most of the other kavyas. Megha Sandesham is such a popular work that it is almost translated into every language that we know, including the international languages like German, French, and others.
So
And it is
ask for us to get them translated.
yeah, we definitely have to get the other regional literature kavyas also translated. The Tamil Sangam literature, shorter messenger poems are already translated into English. Because Sangam literature has been translated into English in general. As part of that, these small messenger poems of Tamil literature also have been translated into English.
Yes, in fact, I heard of one of the Chempu poetry, Pradeep ji, when he came on the podcast, he spoke about it. Where there are two Gandharvas flying from, south of India in Kanchipuram to Kashmir, and they are describing the characteristic of each of the places that they see. And they give both the, good and bad parts of each place. So I was really tempted to read it, but unfortunately, it's only available in Tamil. So
yeah, that being a Champu Kavya is something interesting because in Sanskrit literature, Champu Kavya, which means that verse and prose mixing.
Yes.
A Kavya where verse and prose are mixed is called Champu Kavya.
Right.
Champu Kavya is not the mainstream in Sanskrit. In South India, Champu Kavya is the mainstream, and pure verse poems are not the mainstream. Nirvachana kavyas are not the mainstream. So, because Champu kavyas were already the mainstream in the southern part, they wrote a Champu kavya with a Duta model, Sandesha model. That makes it very interesting.
Very interesting. So let's hope that by the time we speak about Dut Kavyas next time, some of them, these would be translated and available to the larger population. And for our listeners, we'll put links to some of the Dut Kavyas that are available for them to read, including Meghdut. Thank you so much, Dr. Nagraj Paturi, for introducing us to this genre of Sanskrit poetry and Indian poetry.
Thank you very much. It was all pleasure was all mine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Detours. You can also join us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Our handle is Inditales, INDITALES. See you soon.